Hey my fellow ink drinkers, welcome to Dark Violet Dreams, where I share my love of books, movies, and other deliciously dark delights. Today I'm sharing both books and movies for Valentine's Day. These are my picks for you, some of my favorite books and movies that have some element of love and a hefty dose of darkness, tortured souls, or things of that nature, because we don't really keep it light here, do we? Today I am sipping on a hot cinnamon sunset tea. This is one of my favorite teas. I don't have tea very often, but we are out of coffee and creamer, and we are not going shopping for a couple of days. Maybe I'll have one of the teens sneak on over to our local store to grab some more coffee. We'll see how I survive on just tea, but it is delicious. I've got 13 books and 9 movies to share with you. There are so many more I could share, but these were favorites that were off the top of my head, or things that I have seen recently or read recently that I think some of you would enjoy as well. So of course, take any of my recommendations with a grain of salt. There could be plenty of possible triggers, lots of content warnings. You might not see love where I see love. Of course, there are elements of love, romance, lust, what have you. Some form of connection in each of these that really stood out to me. And of course, this is coming from someone who doesn't celebrate Valentine's Day in a big way. My husband and I typically cook dinner together and watch a movie or a show. My favorite memories are cooking together and watching The Walking Dead with him. If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what would. So this is coming from me. Of course, I enjoy celebrating Valentine's Day with my kids. We like to get some fun Valentine-themed treats and do all sorts of Valentine activities, arts and crafts, and lessons on some Valentine's days. But this year we are keeping it to more of the crafty, gamey, movie nature with, of course, lots of treats thrown in. And I am getting lots of help from one of my adult children who is very crafty and enjoys cooking for the family. So I'm really excited for this Valentine's Day. It's just days away, and I think I have one movie in mind that I'd like to watch either with my husband. I don't think he enjoys this style of movie. I know he doesn't. Or by myself. But the kids and I are going to come up with some sort of movie to watch. Obviously, it doesn't have to be centered around love, but I do have one recommendation for you, because we recently rewatched Shrek 2, and the kids watched Shrek 3, and those were obsessions of my older children back in the day, and they held up, in my opinion. I may have missed a few things that might not have held up, but they were so entertaining. And of course, you've got the heavy fairy tale theme going on in that movie, so fairy tales, Valentine's Day, they go together so well. So, fun family movie. All right, back to the books. Like I said, I have 13 books I'd like to share with you, and I'm going to just quickly go through them. If you want more information on any of these books, of course, I always share reviews and recommendations over on my Instagram. I've got some reviews and stuff here, and you can go check out my Goodreads as well. Or if you just want to ask about a specific book and you'd like more information on it, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments below, email me, whatever. The first book I'd like to recommend is Paracosm by Gillian Dowell. This is dark romance. It's got the perfect amount of spice so that it's not too much, because sometimes too much is too much, but it doesn't take away from the storyline. It actually adds to it, and there's just a lot going on here that was intriguing, and it was beautifully written. I really feel like I can't go wrong with Gillian Dowell. I've read 3 books, one which was a team effort with Stephanie Kemler. We'll get into that in a little bit. And I think I have one more to go. So I really enjoy her writing. I just feel like she and I both have similar backgrounds in certain ways, similar approaches to certain things in life, and so that really comes through in her characters, and so her characters are super relatable to me, and I really enjoyed this one. The next book I'd like to recommend is Bride of the Tornado by James Kennedy. Now, this isn't super heavy on romance, but there are romantic elements there, young love and things like that. And I really enjoyed it. And there's a lot of heavy stuff in there, but it's also heartwarming at times. The third combines a little bit of humor in with the darkness, and it is Oops, I Killed My Boyfriend by Alana K. Drex and Billy Ray Middleton Jr. And this is such a fun read. There are so many pop culture references in this, and they make such a great team, Alana and Billy. There are romantic elements in this. There's a lot of disturbing elements in here. There's just a whole lot of everything, and the vibes, the atmosphere, everything is just top notch in my book. The next is a book that I referenced without naming earlier, and that is The Year of Sin and Smoke by Stephanie Kemler and Gillian Dowell. Now they tag teamed and did this sort of the story, and then Gillian worked on journal entries that really added to the story in such an incredible way. This is dark romance with heavy prose and just beautiful scenery, and there are a lot of really rough scenes in this that might be hard for some of my friends here to read, so fair warning, but it was beautifully written. By the end, I was just, I just didn't want to pick up another book because I was so wrapped up in this world and still processing all that I read. It was beautiful. The next is for my poetry lovers or people who want to dip their toes into poetry. This is called Thorns of My Heart by D.L. Tillery, and it is gothic romance poetry. What's not to love? Perfect for Valentine's Day. The next is another Billy Ray Middleton Jr. book called The Silhouette, and this is kind of a lighter romance as far as like dark romance goes. There are some dark themes kind of sprinkled throughout. It is sort of dark, but it's got kind of a Nicholas Sparks kind of feel to it if you added a touch more darkness. I used to be a big Nicholas Sparks fan, and I like this book so much better than any Nicholas Sparks book I've ever read. You'll see many of these are indie recommendations because that's just where my heart is. I find that they tug at my heartstrings a little more, and they really dig deep into my experiences more than a lot of the typically traditionally published books. Sometimes trad books feel a little more surface level, and indie books have the depth that I crave, and I'm finding that more and more. I do enjoy traditionally published books, don't get me wrong, but there is a definite formula, and you can kind of see that. And so it is refreshing to read from people who can dip their toes outside that traditionally published mind frame and give you something unexpected. Excuse all the noise. Like I said, I'm a mother, so you know, you're gonna get background noise here. The next book is another Gillian Dowell book. I'm sorry, I know I could have given space to other authors, but you know, I don't read a lot of books that involve romance, and she does it so well that I was just like, you know what? Let's go with it. Let's go with whatever I want to share because it's my channel. And here we are. So the book is Hello Dove by Gillian Dowell. This was my first experience with Gillian Dowell, and it hit so close to home that I was just blown away. I first read this on my Kindle, and then I purchased myself a physical copy because I needed to hug it. I needed to display it on my shelves, and of course I wanted a copy that I could read time and time again. And you know, since I'm big on using tabs to mark passages that I love, and song references and scenes that just really touch me, I'm going to be tabbing that thing up like crazy. Does that sound bad? The next book is actually a novelization of a movie, and it is one of my favorite books. It turned out really well. I was a little bit nervous going into this book because I loved the movie so much, but you know what? I loved the book just as much because you could kind of experience the inner thoughts of the main character a little more than you could in the movie. And this book is Crimson Peak. Love it, all the gothic vibes, there's romance involved, and a lot of horrors. And it's just a wonderfully spectacular experience, both book and movie. We'll get into the movie in a minute. The next book I'd like to share is The Vile Thing We Created by Robert Ottone. Now listen here. This is about some dark stuff that happens with the offspring of a couple, you know? So one wouldn't normally think, great Valentine read. But I'm telling you, the connection between this couple, at least in the beginning, is one to aspire to. It's such a wonderful couple. I absolutely loved their love story and loved the entire book. So if you don't want a book that is all romance this Valentine's Day, this is a great book for you to check out. It goes places I did not expect. It was beautifully written, and I just love Robert Ottone's style. And he is a jack of all trades because he writes middle grade fiction as well. So he's got something for everybody. So I definitely recommend you check out his work and go and check out his Instagram. He is always entertaining. If you would like to read some short stories this Valentine's Day and you want to keep it on the dark side, the perfect book for you would be Love and Other Monsters in the Dark. So definitely check this one out. It's been a while since I read it, but I remember enjoying it. I think it might have been a 4-star read for me. And I might check out a story or two in this book this week. We shall see. I've got a lot on my plate right now, but you know, it's sometimes fun to revisit stories, even if you're not fully reading the book. Even if you're just kind of going through and seeing what you marked or what stories stood out to you and things like that, it's a lot of fun to revisit books. And I do want to put my books to good use, because if there are books that are physically on my shelves, they deserve to be seen time and time again. The next book is a spicy fairy tale retelling called The Wolf of the Woods by Savvy Rose. This is book 1 in the Forbidden Fables series by Savvy Rose. As I read each new book in this series, I thought, oh, this is my favorite. But as I kind of thought through after reading the 3 that she has out, I don't know if she's putting any more out in this particular series, but after I read the whole thing and kind of reflecting back, The Wolf of the Woods stood out the most to me. They're all excellent. They all kind of dig deeper and deeper as time goes on, but there's just something about The Wolf of the Woods that hit home for me. It was unfamiliar in certain ways, but it was definitely something that hit close to home in others. So I really appreciated that, and her writing just keeps getting better and better, but for some reason that story just sticks with me so much more than the others. I don't know why. Now, I did say that I'm sharing a lot of indie books, but I am going to share a traditionally published series, specifically the first book in the series, and it is the Sookie Stackhouse series, Dead Until Dark. This is by Charlaine Harris. Of course, you know True Blood is a TV show inspired by the series, and I love them both. So I feel like there's a little bit more humor in this one. It doesn't have as dark of a feel. It feels a little bit lighter is what I'm getting at here than the TV series. But I absolutely love it, and it's a lot of fun, and I am not even remotely close to the end of the series. I keep setting them aside for long periods of time to read other things, and then I'll revisit. But it's just something enjoyable, and if you like vampires and werewolves and witches and fairies and all those types of things, you're gonna like this. It's dark fantasy romance type stories. A lot of fun. And the last book that I could not pass by this year is Solita by Vivien Rainn. This is a beautiful story of a woman who is overcoming her literal demons, as the author had said in one of her recent posts. I loved this. It's got that gothic romance kind of feel to it, more modern, but like, oh, it's just beautiful. I marked up that book so much. Do I have it? It's right here. There are so many tabs in this book that I said it reminded me of stained glass windows, and that would fit the story well. So Definitely check out all of these books. Let me know if you've read any of these or what your top picks would be. On to the movies. Now, these movies might not be as dark as some of the books that I recommended. There are some dark movies in here, don't get me wrong, but I'm a sucker for musician movies. Oh, I forgot one. Maybe we'll talk about it at the end. The first movie that I wanted to talk about, though, is not a musician movie. This is definitely dark romance with an 80s vibe. Those of you who know that I'm going to recommend Lisa Frankenstein. I watched this with one of my adult kids when I was first able to watch it on TV, and it was so fun, so good. All the 80s vibes, all the Lisa Frank vibes with the Frankenstein twist. I just loved it. This next movie I'd like to recommend is one of my all-time favorite movies, and yes, it involves musicians. It is The Doors, starring Val Kilmer, Meg Ryan. I absolutely love this movie, and every time I watch it, I fall in love with it all over again. It is so good. So if you're into 60s rock bands and things like that, definitely check it out. Diving back into the dark here. Not that The Doors isn't dark. There are some tortured souls and some weird stuff happening, but if you want a dark musical starring Johnny Depp, dive on into Sweeney Todd. I love it. I want to wear all of the costumes, and I sing along with the songs, and it's just romantic in a really twisted way, and I really like it, okay? The fourth movie that I'd like to recommend is Bram Stoker's Dracula. You're surprised, aren't you? You're not surprised at all? No? I reference this movie way too much on social media? Okay, well, here we are again. Bram Stoker's Dracula. I just love it, okay? I don't need to say a lot about these because they are well-known movies for the most part, and you've probably already seen them, but you could use this as a reminder to go rewatch them and enjoy them all over again. The next movie is one that I hope to watch at least this week, this month, at some point soon, is The Phantom of the Opera. I haven't seen this in so long, but I absolutely love this, and I think this is probably my favorite musical, one of my favorite musicals of all time. I do remember seeing this in high school, not on Broadway, but at the theater, a theater production of Phantom of the Opera, and loved it then as well. You can't get more romantic than that, can you? And of course, we need to shout out Gomez and Morticia Addams because their love is like no other. So if you want to watch something with the family, at least older kids, my whole family can watch it. The Addams Family, like any of them, will do because Morticia is the queen, okay? And of course, I said I was going to mention this movie, and here I am mentioning this movie, Crimson Peak. I love this, all the vibes. Oh my goodness, it really gets under your skin, all those sounds and the sights and everything, but that love is so pure on one end at least, and it is just such a beautiful movie. So if you have not seen that yet, I highly recommend it if you like more of the gothic style horror movies. The next movie I'd like to talk about is A Star is Born. Now, again, we're back to the rock star kind of thing, musicians, whatnot. I first saw the version that Bradley Cooper made with Lady Gaga, really loved that. And then I went back to the 70s, watched that version, love them both equally for different reasons. They are similar storylines, of course, but they just have different feels, but they both really just struck me. Cupid's bow struck me, and I love A Star is Born. I know there are other versions of this as well, and I have yet to check them out, but I know they're out there, so I will definitely check them out. And it's different, so I think that's why I've just not gotten to it yet, because it's a different storyline. I mean, you've got the basics, but I really like the rocker, you know, aspect of the two that I have watched. And last but not least, I'd like to recommend The Crow. It's sad, but it's inspiring. And it's got all these amazing vibes, dark and twisty. What's not to love? And I'm talking about the original Crow. I haven't seen the new Crow, and I know there's people that refuse to see it. And I definitely want to see it because I like to compare. And maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't. But the OG Crow is where it's at for me right now. I'll get back to you if I watch the newer one. Another one that I forgot to mention, honorable mention, I guess, is Walk the Line. Absolutely love that movie. I don't know how I didn't put that on my list, but it didn't make it. So if you like musicians and you want these kind of semi-fictionalized stories about them, definitely check that one out. Let me know what you think. I love it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again as I kind of make my way back into regular uploading. I hope you guys are having an amazing February so far. Please let me know what your Valentine plans are, what books or movies you'd recommend for Valentine's Day or Halloween, as a lot of people like to say. Because I recommended not so horrific things or spooky things kind of in the mix, I chose not to call this Halloween, but you know my heart is all about Halloween. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day or night. Please leave those book and movie recommendations below. Subscribe if you haven't already, if you don't mind my rambling thoughts and random suggestions. Anyway, have a good one. I'll see you next time. Cheers.